no, dude. No, no, not again. Not again. Not again. I can't win, dude. I literally cannot win. Hello, beautiful people. So Xilonen is finally here. I had a bit of time to test her around and play her, and so far my initial thoughts are she is extremely good at what she does. She's a buffer, healer, and a debuffer at the same time. Okay, so I had around 140 pulls, 20 of which I used before to get Chevreuse, which I did end up getting, by the way. So I am at soft pity, I think somewhere around 60-ish pulls. So I have 70 more pulls to go, 70 plus, I think around 85-ish pulls more to go. So without further ado, let's see what we get, if we win the 50-50 or not. Spoiler alert, I do win the 50-50. So there it is. There's the golden shine, and we see one, then two. Oh, there she is. There she is. All right, so that's my 50-50 win. In a while, I haven't really won 50-50s at all. So Xilonen is here. She looks absolutely amazing. She looks absolutely gorgeous, and I think there's also Chi-Chi in the tenfold. So on the weapon banner, I did end up losing the 50-50 once. It was an early PT, so that's fine. But later on, I did end up getting the weapon anyway. So there it is. Peak Petrol looks super good. So first and foremost, I do want to ascend her. I have finally managed to farm everything that I need to max ascend her. So hopefully I have, yep, I basically have everything to level her up. There we go, level 90. Now let's hope I have everything for her talents as well. So that's her burst, level 9, and there's my first crown. So her max skill damage goes to 500%, 506% defense. Her healing is a lot high. She does heal a lot. We will get back to it in a bit. And her follow-up beat damage is 506%. Not bad, not bad. Second one, skill, 20% increase, 33% elemental rush shred, and it maxes out at 36%. 322. Nice. Yeah, finally her. Oh no, I might be lacking on, but I will try to see if I can get her the last one. Okay, so a bit of collection of footage here, just trying to get my results, dude. Does anyone ever get annoyed when they accidentally try to get stuff and they click on the cooking thingy? Yeah, it's annoying for me as well. So there we go, more stuff, more loot, good stuff, all the good stuff here and there. Some more whistles here. I don't know what this guy's doing. I have no idea what this guy's doing. Okay, my animation got cancelled and the sound was delayed. Nice! Okay, let's see if we have enough. 15, got some 6. Yep, I actually do. There we go. Our normal attacks go around 102% here. 54, 54, 144. They're not as high as I hoped them to be, but it's fine. And she's fully maxed. Usually I try to max characters on the first day of release, but this time around I was actually busy with a lot of stuff, so... Okay, so Xilonen is here, and I don't have a lot of artifacts to make use of her, especially want the Obsidian Codex, so that's why I am going to open 20 of my fragile resin. That's gonna amount to like 1200 resin, so Raiden-Zhongli, then everything else. I don't think I'm not... Oh my gosh, dude. Energy recharge. No, resistance is always nice. No. Attack percent. Geo damage bonus. 3 of them. Ooh. Sense attack percent. Damage from I don't think I'm lacking that much damage either. Crit damage, healing bonus, defense. I don't think I'm gonna use that. Pole arm. EM, no. Maybe. Ooh, no. Oh my gosh, electro damage bonus. So I'm thinking whether or not I should use them on Marechausse or Gilded Dreams, but I think I might just throw them to Marechausse. Right. Let's see what we get. I don't think I got a lot of good stuff here. HP, Goblet. No. Low. No. I mean, I can try these pieces, but they're not gonna roll well. That's the issue. Defense, no. How does 13 artifacts in a row, like all of them just become bad? I can do half. Money Max, Minzy pulling again? No, not today, dude. I am gambling today. I'm trying to get some artifacts which are responsible for doing damage, bro. I am not pulling for the next 2 patches until the Pyro Archon drops. So lots of artifacts to check. Let's see what we get. I mean, not a lot. Around like what? 4, 4, 8, 20, 16. Around 24-ish. 24-ish artifacts to check. Alright, so moment of truth. So these 2 pieces are my... Which one am I going to trash first? This is the one. Either I go plus 16 or I go plus 20. I think I'm gonna go plus 16. Alright, there we go. Alright, come on, buddy. Oh my gosh, one more crit rate. It's gonna be perfect, dude, after that, bro. Come on, buddy. Alright, please. It's fine. I will still take it. It was a 3-liner, but it rolled really nicely. That was a high roll on crit rate. That was decent rolls on crit damage. I will still keep it. Compared to like what I'm using here, this one has a bit of high crit rate. 27 CV here. This one is a lot better. 7714. That's like 34.4 CV. 34.4 CV. Like this is definitely an upgrade from this shit piece here. Okay, so come on, Feather. Come on, bro. Come on. I got this juicy plus 20 for you. It's high roll on both crit rate and crit damage. The other 2 stats are really not that good. It's only like flat stats, but come on. Excuse me? Is that crit rate or crit damage? Wait, let me check my eyes first. That's 18.7% crit rate. That's like 4 or 5 rolls here? Chotto matte, dude. Chotto matte. I am confused. Bro! Hold on, I need to check the CV of this. I don't want to use my brain for this. 18.7 into 2, that's 37.4. 13.2. 50.6 CV! Oh my god! Xilonen, buddy. Got some upgrades for you. Get away. Come on. Don't need that. But these are decent upgrades. I think I might have a bit more crit rate now. I mean, for a character that is not geared toward crit rate, I think it's okay. Her ER is in a decent spot. I can probably swap this out for something else, but I kind of need the extra defense that you get from here. So I only need to get like a better piece here, and I think our build is mostly complete for now. I can also get like a better piece here, which I don't have currently. So that's her max stats and weapon. Right now I am using her signature, which hasn't been maxed yet. Still have to wait till Saturday to max it out, so that's not a big issue. As for artifacts, I am using her best artifact set, which is the Scroll of the Hero of Cinder. Now, the description is a lot long, but what this essentially says is that the two-piece generates 6 elemental energy, which is pretty darn good if you're playing her as a support. And the 4-piece is essentially plus 40% elemental damage bonus as long as she triggers like an elemental reaction. Now, see, this is very easy to trigger. All you need to do is just click twice with Xilonen, and that should usually do the trick. It does stay for 20 seconds, so it's a long buff. You don't really need to worry about it. It does work off field, and we will showcase that once it comes to it. As for our constellations, our C1 essentially increases the duration of our E skill or her Night Soul state. It decreases the phlogiston consumption by 30% and increasing the time limit by 45% with an additional interruption resistance. Now, I don't really know how much good this is, but let me know down in the comments if you have her C1. Now, her C2 is essentially the biggest damage upgrade in terms of constellations. If you guys want to pull for constellations, try getting her to C2 because that's probably her best constellation at the minimum investment. C3 and C5 are essentially talent upgrades. C4 is basically a small buff to normal charge and plunging attack, which is based on her 65% of defense. Do keep in mind it has a trigger limit of 6 or at least lasts for 15 seconds and it ends afterwards. Now her C6 on the other hand, well, all I can say is yes, damage. Anyway, so moving into her talents, her skill itself, it's extremely easy to understand. She has 3 samplers and they kind of react with 4 elements, which is Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, and Electro. Whereas the samples kind of start as Geo, and based on the team members that you have, they will switch over to that corresponding element afterwards. Now, it's very easy to trigger. To showcase how her skill works, essentially, we have 2 Pyro characters and 2 Geo characters in this team, so we will be getting the resistance rate for those particular elements. So we go to Arlecchino, we get our shields up, we switch over to Xilonen, and once we attack twice, you will see there's a small beats below her, which essentially shows that her buff is currently active. Now, just because I have her signature weapon, I have an additional of 25.6% elemental damage bonus. From her artifacts, I have an additional 40% elemental damage bonus. So if I go to her element buffs, we can see that I have in total 65.66% damage bonus for Pyro and 65.6% damage bonus for Geo. Whereas 25.6 comes from her weapon and 40% comes from her artifacts. And basically, that's how it works. Now, for her ultimate skill, it will... well, it has 2 sides of it. One side is kind of geared towards support, while the other side is kind of geared towards DPS. Now, if she has at least 2 source samples, then she will mostly function as a healer. 2 or more, she will function as a healer, and her heal is active target based, so she will only heal your active character. Now, if she has less than 2 source samples or 2 Doritos, she will mostly start acting like a follow-up. She will have something called like a follow-up beat damage, which is essentially more damage on her part, but she won't heal in this state and she will function as more like a DPS. Now, for her passive is what defines her if she will be DPS or if she will be support. So her passive, Echo's passive, she basically gets additional Night Soul points if she has at least 2 source samples, or if she doesn't have at least 2, less than 2, which is essentially just 1, she will start being like a DPS and she gets additional damage on her normal and plunging attacks, which is around 30% increased damage. Her other passive is that she gets 20% additional defense increase, which is a minor, it's a minor thing, but it's kind of decent to get her defense to like around 3500, as you can see, so it's not that bad. Now, as far as weapons for Xilonen goes, you can essentially use whatever you have, but if you want to run her as a support, most energy recharge weapons are gonna be just fine on her. Doesn't really matter if you want to use Sacrificial Sword, if you want to use Festering Desire, or in her case Favonius Sword might be just the best sword for her because it acts well, it does funnel energy particles, so it's not only good for Xilonen herself, it's also good for her team. Now if you do want to get her signature, which has a lot of defense percent, feel free to do that. It's really up to you. Our weapon is kind of unique in a sense that it gives elemental damage bonus based on her amount of defense. So it's extremely good. It caps out at 25.6% if you have a refinement 1. It gives her additional defense as well and some minor damage buff to her normal and plunging attacks. Now if you want to use something like Chiori's weapon for DPS, more DPS scaling, feel free to do that, but I will go back to that in a bit. Now finally, if you do have Albedo Sword, which I unfortunately don't have, I didn't really play around that time, it took a small break. You can also use Albedo Sword on her if you want, that's totally up to you. Artifacts, for support, your main stat to focus on will be energy recharge, defense, and defense. So if you have like an energy recharge weapon, feel free to go defense percent on her stance, defense percent on her goblet, and defense percent on her circlet, with a bit of ER wherever you can. But if you're playing her as a DPS, you might probably want to get defense percent on her stance, geo damage bonus, so geo damage bonus as her goblet, and finally depending on what stats you have and what set you're using, you might want to go something like a crit rate or crit damage on her circlet. Now as for our substats, for support, you are more than welcome to go crit rate and crit damage everywhere, but for support, it will probably be more beneficial if you have defense percent and energy recharge. But she gets so much defense from everywhere. I mean, if you have her signature, you get so much defense, it doesn't really matter. You will hit the cap of, say for example, 3200 or 3500 defense anyway. But if you don't have her signature, your best bet is to try to get defense from substats. Something like this piece here, where I have a crit rate, I have some crit damage, and I have some defense percent here. So I am using a 4-piece Scroll of the Hero of the Cinder City, which gives a bit of ER and lots of elemental damage bonus. This is what essentially makes her comparison to Kazuha and gives a huge buff to your current active characters to do even more damage. Now one thing I do want to talk about is that if you want to run her as a DPS, her probably best set would be Obsidian Codex. Now unfortunately I don't have a full set farm for her. I didn't really get up being lucky on the domain, at least right now. But I do have like a 4-piece Scroll of Hero of Cinder City, so that's the only one I will be using for the demonstration purposes in this video. Now there's a small thing I do want to showcase here, is that, well, if you're using something like a Kazuha, you do have to swirl the element, and that's how you usually get the buff for that particular element. Like in this case, I'm getting like almost 40% or 39.5% pyro damage bonus by swirling that element. That one comes from Kazuha's talent, which is Poetics of Fubutsu, and our 4-piece VV or Viridescent Venerer is what's enabled us to resistant shred. In case of Xilonen, we kind of get the opposite. We get the elemental damage buff from her artifact set, but her resistant comes from her skill, which caps out at 36%. Now it's almost similar, and it does stay for like 15 seconds compared to like Kazuha, it stays for like 8 seconds. So you do have to use Kazuha right before you use your DPS character or your preferred DPS. In case of Xilonen, you have a bit more flexibility because it stays for around 15 seconds. So you can use one character before your DPS or your sub DPS before you eventually move to your active DPS character. Now the place where Xilonen usually shines in is against group of enemies which keep spawning, and you don't really have to use your Kazuha to constantly shred resistance. So we enter Xilonen, we press our skill twice, then we move over to Bennet, and then we switch over to Arlecchino here, and that's one made of enemies gone. Now the second wave of enemies is here. We still have the Xilonen buffs active, and they have finally defeated. Now there goes Xilonen buffs away. We can basically switch to her again, get the buff again, get our shields up, and we switch over to Arlecchino. It's just that simple. Now that's a bit of a different kind of playstyle compared to Kazuha, but if you really like that, I think it's gonna suit really nicely for you. Now I have a team of Raiden, Xilonen-Beidou, and Yelan here. So I will be playtesting this team. So we start with Beidou, get her ultimate up, we then go to Yelan, get her ultimate up, then we go to Xilonen, we press twice, get her stirred up, and finally we switch over to Raiden. There we go. So we can do the same thing again. We use Beidou, we use Yelan, then we switch over to Xilonen, get her buffs up, and we go Raiden. So essentially what this team does, it just replaces Kazuha in that slot, and we have like a perfectly synergistical team. Now you can do this in a different whole variety of ways. Like the places where you used to run Kazuha, you can definitely just slot in Xilonen there. But the way you play Xilonen will change a bit differently depending on what you're trying to do with this team. But essentially, it's still basically the same. You can also remove someone like Cookie from this team and just place in Xilonen. But the team where she won't function that well is probably gonna be Furina, where you might need a second healer. Now, if you're trying to run Xilonen as a DPS, her best team might be a plunge DPS, where you use Xianyun for team-wide heals, because Xilonen won't be able to keep up with the inner HP drain from Furina. If you have a C6 Goro, that's definitely usable here. And we basically run Xilonen as a full-out DPS. Now, I don't have C6 Goro, I only have his C5. I am kind of waiting to get his C6 so I can actually build him. But we still will be using someone else here regardless. Now, you can use someone like Zhongli here, who gives like 20% raised elemental shred, which kinda works pretty nicely with Xilonen. And for Xilonen, we will switch her over to a pure DPS setup. Now I will use Chiori's weapon here, and unfortunately she doesn't really get a lot of crit rate, so we will be switching over to Marechausse Hunter. So that brings our final stats to 49, 255, 106% ER. That doesn't really matter. We have some geo damage here. And with 36% crit rate from Marechausse Hunter set, we get somewhere around 85%-ish crit rate. Yeah, 85%-ish. So without further ado, let's test this team and how it does. So rotation's gonna be a bit different here. We have to start with Zhongli, then we go with Furina or Xianyun, whatever you want. Then our last character will be Xilonen. Alright, we start with Zhongli. We get our Furina buffs up, then we get Xianyun buffs up, then we press E with Xilonen and we start plunging. So 64 there, 69, 70 something, 67, and I think I ran out of my buffs again. So switch over to Zhongli, get Furina's buffs, Then we get Xianyun's buff again. And there we go. 65, 67, and they're gone. It's a pretty fun team. If you wanna go plunge, it's definitely the way to go. It's not bad at all. So we will be testing a few teams. In particularly, we will be testing 4 different teams with Xilonen and compare it to Kazuha and see how she does. It will be at C0. Xilonen does have her signature weapon. Do keep that in mind. The first one, we have Ayaka Freeze team with Kazuha on one left side, and we have Ayaka Freeze team with Xilonen on the right side. So we won't be freezing anything here because it's a big boss. Well, we all know that. So as you can see, Xilonen, well, she seems to be holding up pretty nicely. Now, I do apologize if my gameplay footage is a bit scuffed because I haven't done this in a while and I mess up here and there. So I do hope my little bit of skill issue does not interfere with their judgment making, because it's still pretty much similar by the end of the day. There's not much difference here and there. So far, Kazuha seems to be on the winning spectrum, but Xilonen seems to be catching up pretty nicely. And with the ultimate, they are pretty much even right now. I think it's gonna take me a bit more time for Xilonen to clear the boss. So it's probably my fault because I wasn't being 100% effective with the gameplay mechanic here. I still need to practice more, alright? I still need to practice more, but I think it's not that much of a difference, around 10 seconds-ish. And there we go. So on the second team, we are going to be using Furina-Yelan and Kokomi for like a full-on mono-hydro team. So starting off on the left side, we have Kazuha trying to swirl, Furina, and finally Yelan. And we switch over to Kazuha again to swirl again because the burst is for 8 seconds, right? So we do DPS with Kokomi. On the right side, the rotation is pretty much similar, but the buff from Xilonen stays a bit longer, so we are able to do a bit more DPS, but it still seems pretty much similar in both cases. Even though my Kazuha accidentally died there, so that's again scuffed gameplay applies. Don't judge me, alright? I have a bit of skill issue. I admit that, and it's totally my fault. So even so, we messed up a bit there, but I feel like if I didn't mess up there, it should have been pretty much even. Alright. So the third team, we shall be using an Arlecchino Monopyro team. I mean, it's not technically Monopyro. We do have a Zhongli in there for emotional support. So pretty much the same rotation on both sides. We go Arlecchino, Zhongli, then Bennet, and finally Xilonen, and we just left click with Arlecchino. And feel free to use your burst on Arlecchino. Feel free not to use that. Totally up to you. I like using it sometimes. It looks pretty cool. But we do see that Xilonen seems to be faring better, much better in this team for some reason. Although Kazuha on the left side seems to be catching up as well. So Xilonen kinda... Oh, we actually finished the fight just a bit before Kazuha did. So the last one is my personal favorite. It's Raiden-Beidou-Kazuha or Xilonen, whichever you use, and Yelan. So this one is kind of like a sub DPS and main DPS-ish. Everything mashed in together, works pretty synergistically. Although this team has a bit of energy issues, so you might need to min-max your energy gain so that the rotation goes smoothly. Because if you mess up, you will be probably be stuck trying to get energy particle for your team. But we can see that Xilonen is working pretty nicely in this team without any issues. She does get her buff and debuff pretty nicely compared to Kazuha, which again stays only for 8 seconds, where for Xilonen stays for like 15 seconds, where our artifact buff also stays for 20 seconds. So it does feel a bit better to do her rotation. But at the end of the day, we can see the difference isn't that much. I mean, if I were to do both the runs really perfectly, I think it would have been mostly like 1 or 2 second difference. So it feels pretty good to use. It's definitely a unique kind of playstyle. So that's pretty much for me. There are definitely a lot of teams that you can do. I don't have Mualani, I don't have Kinich, I don't have Nubilet. I definitely have a Goro to showcase the main DPS. But hopefully that was something that you needed to see, or at least you found it helpful. Do let me know down in the comments how you like the video. And guys, stay awesome, stay hydrated. I will see you on the next one. Bye. Bye.